Hello guys, good evening. Welcome back for our Java training. So today's topic is like more into the practical, developing one microservice with a Spring Boot. So it's a standalone. Let's see. Before going for that, let me project you the theoretical, how it is and all. Then I will go back to the practical. Let me share my screen. Let me know once you guys are able to view my screen. Are you guys able to view my screen?
Yes, bro.
Okay. Okay. So okay. If you see like any web application, in case of like microservice or whatever it is, we are saying, right? So the flow goes like this actually. So first there will be application layer, then followed by the service layer, then followed by the model layer. Okay. So then that is talking with the database.
No, అది వీడియో కన్ను
So
కనెక్ట్ కాలేడా
okay. So application layer is the one where like clients will send the request. It will accept the request. Then the flow goes to the service layer. So service layer is the one as the interface and where we'll be having like no the core business logic or business layer you can call this one. So this is the one is a data layer, repository or data layer. So data layer is the one which actually deals with the data. So that is the databases. So this is the ideal kind of web applications. So for creating any Spring Boot application, so we are having this like start.spring.io. So there's a Spring initializer is there. So this is a Spring initializer. So designed by Spring itself. If you want to develop any Spring Boot project, you can select
Bro, your voice
it
is
from here.
breaking, bro.
So let's take project as a Maven and language is the Java. It's breaking now. Is it better now?
Yes, bro, now it's okay.
So let's say build as Maven and is Java.
It's breaking only, bro. Now it's breaking.
It's breaking. Yeah, is it better now?
Okay, bro. Now it's
Hello?
Sir,
Yes,
better,
bro.
but some problems are voice cutting.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Please
Now.
let me know.
Oh,
I think it's a network issue. I
yeah.
just corrected that. Let's say, like, please let me know whenever you are seeing any breakage. I will repeat there. Okay. So what version of the Spring Boot you want to use? We can choose here. So what is the project name? So what is the artifact? This we can choose anything. So I have chosen as a demo. Okay, because just like demo project, right? And the artifacts will be there in jars. So I have chosen the Java 8 version. Okay. So there here, there are the dependencies are there. So what and all the dependencies you want. So DevTools is the one we discussed, right? It will take care of all the dependencies if you choose this one. And Lombok is there for the logging. And Spring Web is required. This is the main, the core, like where starter. Yeah, Spring Data JPA is required for the database interactions. And Spring Web is required. So where like actually complete the Tomcat will be coming as an inbuilt. Okay. So these are all the things like, you know, we can choose as the dependencies. Then that's it. Like we can click on generate. So once you did this, it will generate one Spring Boot project. So the structure looks like this. Let me go back for my go to Java preparation. Yeah, Spring Boot practice. So it will give like this. Okay. Yeah, the structure looks like this exactly. Okay. So build one, if you go, like we can find out what and all the build related things are required. And there is a source code structure will be there. So where like Java and resources, I will show you that better in our IDE. Yes. So here is the one. So I have chosen as a demo. Okay. Since this is the demo, like we can see here. Okay. There is a pom.xml. So this is there for the build. So if you see the pom.xml, we can see all the dependencies, whatever I have marked. So I have defined as MySQL because I have chosen database as a MySQL database for my application. And starter web is the one where which will bring up this complete Spring Web, all these things. And starter data JPA. Data JPA is one, this is the artifact just required for interacting with the database. So Spring Data JPA is a concept like we have shown, right? To interact with the databases. And here is the one, what is the version of the Java, what I have chosen. And yeah, starter parent. So it will be there as a default. Lookup parent from repository. I think high level is an and also logging there for the Lombok also will be there. So Maven plugin. So whatever is required for the and Lombok is there. This is basically for logging purpose. So I have chosen required things in initializer. So everything it has populated like this. So apart from this, what and all it has created is under the source main Java. So under the Java, it will create the demo application. Let me open this one. See, whatever the name you will give here, right? The project name. With that name, it will create one application. So I have given the demo. So with that demo application it has given. So this is the starting point for running my Spring Boot application. So if you see here, this is annotated with Spring Boot application. This is the starting point. Also, it will be there with the main method. And here you'll be having the run actually. So we did not do I mean, I did not do anything here. This is just by basic Spring Boot project. If I create from the Spring Initializer, these are all the things will come to me. Okay, there is a under the resources, there will be application and properties file will be there. So this empty file will be created. The properties only will not set, but the structure, the template, whatever is required for the Spring Boot project level, everything will come here. For there will be one folder for the test. So for the unit testing and all, so all the tests like demo application, the name, right, application name. So with the test also it will create. Also, so this is the one where the target classes and all will get stored, generator sources and all. Mean post compilation, all these things will be getting and going and storing there. And this is the static one. If you have any static HTML, CSS pages, JavaScript and all. So this is a structure that I was saying. Okay. So with this deep plain structure, it will create one Spring Boot project. Okay. So I have taken that as a base. So from there, I have developed my application. So what I have done is, so as we all know, first of all, so I have created one MySQL database I have installed. So this is MySQL freshly I have installed. So from there, like I have created one database, DB_demo. So this database I have created DB_demo. So two things actually. One is I have taken the Spring Boot project from Spring Initializer with the basic template. Okay. And another side, what I have done is I have installed the database. So you can choose your own database, either Postgres or Oracle or Microsoft SQL, anything like any NoSQL also it's fine. So I have chosen MySQL here for my practice purpose. So I've installed MySQL database and I have created one database. So that's it I have done as a prerequisite. So now I started with the implementation. Different layers are there. So application layer, service layer, data layer, and database. So let's see. So application layer is the one which is the controller. Okay. And service layer is the one where all the service related classes will be present. And for the entities, and this is the one data layer. So user repository, so which talks with the databases. We'll see each one by one. Okay. Let's take, I have decided to deal with the user. So I have created one database with the DB_demo. So now I've taken as a source as users. Like I want to create some users, I want to update some users, or I want to delete some users. So I want to play with the users. Okay, so that's where I have chosen user as my content, source of content. So let me go for application.properties. First, see, look for this. So this is a file where we will define what is the database properties. So mean Spring Boot is there. It is having the support for the database, but we need to provide like, because database is outside of this. So we need to provide the properties for Spring Boot. So for that, the standard file is application.properties. So these are the one. So what is the database URL? So localhost it is installed. So always like MySQL runs on 3306 port, and DB_demo is my database name. So what is the database username, database password? So then what is the driver class? So that driver class is MySQL driver, and dialect is MySQL 5 dialect. So and here are the two properties. So what happens is, in case now I have only dummy database. Okay. So I want to create the tables, right? The user table if I want to create. So those things, there's two possibilities are there. Either you define the schema or else you do the manually. Okay. Either that is there or else we can ask our application to do that automatically. Okay. For defining automatically, these are the fields I have set. Generate DDL. So that I've set as a true, and Hibernate DDL auto is create. Means every time it will create the tables what and all I have defined. Okay. So that is about the properties. So let's see. So all the entity classes will be defined under the model. Okay. Model view controller, right? The model MVC, the MVC framework. So where
లాంగ్వేజ్ HTML లో చాలా సింపుల్ గా ఇట్లా ప్రోగ్రామ్ ఈజీ అది నేర్చుకోవాలి.
అప్లికేషన్ చెప్తాడు ఇంకా కూడా
okay. So in case of like MVC architecture for model view controller. So model is the one which talks about the actual database.
Bro.
Yeah.
Can you come again from 2 minutes before because your voice is breaking?
Okay, fine. So in case of the hybrid, there are two ways actually for creating the tables. Okay, either we can create via the SQL files. So I can define two SQL files. I can create like, okay, create table, user, and these are all the fields. Either I can do that way, or else I can tell my application to like, you create by your own. I will instruct you, you create on behalf of me. So there are two possibilities are there. So I have chosen the second one. Means I will not create any tables on my own. I will not define any SQL file for creating the tables. So I'm asking my application, so you only create at the time of startup all the required tables, what and all required for me. So for setting that, these are the two fields, Hibernate, DDL auto, create. So automatically it will create all the tables every time. Okay, these are the properties. And if you see for this MVC framework, model view controller. So controller is the one where the complete business logic means the application layer, and model is the one which talks about the data, means inside the database. So I mentioned like, so each entity class represents one table in the database. So if you want to create any table corresponding for the table name, we will create entity classes. Those are plain POSO classes. Let's see. So I want to create the user table. So what I have done, I have created an entity class. See, so at the rate entity and at the rate table name is equal user. So means this class represents a table. The table name can be user. So as part of this, what are the columns I want to keep? So user name is present, user phone number, user mail ID, and user age. So I've taken these are the 4 fields. So we can take anything. Just for this practical session sake, I have taken these 4 fields. Okay. And ID. So any Hibernate, so ID can be defined automatically as a primary column. Okay, this is a primary key ID. So what I'm telling, you only generate the value. Automatically you generate. You maintain the sequence. I will not bother. So that is how like no primary key is like most of the things we can define most of the tables. So while inserting any record, so this is the column represents a primary key. So that we are indicating. So ID, it should be the primary key. At the rate ID represents the primary, and we are telling you only generate automatically. So this ID is we will not give. I will show you like how it works. And there are all the setters and getters methods for each one. That's it. It's a very plain class. It will not be having anything else, which represents what is the class name as a table name, and how many fields are there. That represents the how many columns you want to present in the table. That's it. Okay, clear, right? So what is the primary key? And if you want like no, if you want to change any column name, so I don't want like mail ID as a column. So if you want to give different, so we can give like the rate column. See, I have defined. So what is the column name should be for this column name is equal to ID. So if I want to give any different name for this particular field, I can define here for the at the rate column annotation. So this is how in the Hibernate, all the entities will be defined. Okay. So how many entities are there? That says that that many tables are present in the application. So now I want only user table because I'm dealing only with the users, creating users, deleting the user, updating the user. So there will be one user table will be there. So either keep inserting the records or deleting the records or update the records. So that's where this model, okay, entity. This is done, okay. Next is we'll go for repository. Repository in the sense I mentioned, right? Spring Boot data JPA. So what it will do is it actually deals with the entities, means the database. So in case of the Spring Boot data JPA, we no need to do all the business logic actually. It is very inbuilt and it made life very easier for us. So how we can implement is we will define one interface that extends a JPA repository. That's it. So because going forward and in this framework, what happens, there is more kind of automation. So you don't need to write everything. In case of the Spring, we were using the Hibernate as a separate. We need to write the code. What and all this JPA repository do? Let me open that. See, this is a JPA repository of Spring Boot. Means inbuilt it is coming. So what and all it is having? Find all records, find all records in the sorting order, find all records by the IDs, means save all. If you want to select multiple records in a single time, so I can do this one. I can do flush, save and flush. At the same time, delete in batch, delete by ID. So also get one, get by ID, find all for the searching. So these are all the things are coming as inbuilt. Without Spring Boot, what was happening is, so we used to write this model, DAO, data access object. So what we used to write is, we used to define an interface like this, and we used to provide implementation for all these things. Find all, we need to implement. How to insert a record, we need to implement. How to delete a record, we need to implement. How to update the record, we need to implement. So all these things were there more into the manual, like application has to take it. But when it comes for the Spring Boot, so they had given this inbuilt JPA. So it can work with any kind of database. You just give me the database properties. I will populate everything. I will give you ready-made data. You no need to bother for the implementation. So that is the significance of Spring Data JPA. Okay. Let me close this. So for implementing that repository, what we need to do is simply take one repository. So this is the repository for the user. So means talks for the user table. So it works on the user table. So I have created one interface. It's simply extending the JPA repository. This JPA repository is there from Spring Framework. Okay. So what we need to do is we need to provide two arguments. So based on this, it will work, because JPA repository is there as a very generic. Okay. But it needs on whom I have to work. So that input we need to provide. So we are instructing here, hey boss, my entity is a user, means you work on the entity table. Okay. And the primary key type is long. So these two inputs are required. So by providing these things, it will provide all the functions what and all present in the inbuilt from the JPA repository. That's it, repository implementation. It's very easy in Spring Boot. So only one thing is, you have to take one interface for your entity class that should extend the JPA repository, and you need to provide entity name and its primary key type. And you need to define that particular interface as @repository. So then only it can identify, okay, this is a repository for the particular entity. So that annotation is mandatory. Okay, so this is clear, right? So now the data layer is done. If you see from this, database is ready. So I've installed and kept everything. And this data layer we have completed. How we have completed? This is a model I have taken as a package. So all my entities I'm placing here. And for that entity, I'm creating one repository. Means to deal with the operate anything on these things, I will operate through repository. So because those functions are available, so that is also I'm done. With this, I'm done with this data layer. Now look for service layer. So this is the service here, service layer. So let's see here. Wherever you're writing the service layer, means the service class, to define at the rate service annotation, and you can give some name for that particular service. Okay. So here there will be actual functions. So I want to get all the users present in the user table. So this is the function. I want to add some particular user into my user table. So I want to delete some user. So I want to update some user. So these are the crude operations actually. So that's your like no data manipulation, right? So I want to either add or delete or update or any kind of all these operations. That is how the service layer comes actually. So all the business logic will be there for manipulating this data. Okay. So that is how we are achieving this. So if you see here, let's see how I am doing is I'm just using the user repository because user repository is a channel. So this service layer is there. It wants to do some changes here. So it cannot do directly. What it will do? It will do via the data layer. So it will mark dependency as a data layer. So I'm just the service is having dependency on the repository. So in case of the Spring Boot, so we can mark dependency by using the auto void. This is the dependency injection in Spring Boot. Okay. So what I have done here, just by doing the auto void. So if you see anywhere, I did not create like no user repository is equal new user repository and all. I did not create any object explicitly, just by giving the auto void. So the container inside of the Spring Boot that will create the object, it will provide this object for me. Okay, so it will happen automatically. That is where dependency injection will be taken care in Spring. Okay, let's go for get all users. Okay, let's see like first I want to get all the users present in the system. What I am doing, just user repository dot find all. That's it. Because this repository is extending the JPA repository. So that is having all these functions ready-made available. So just by calling the find all, it will give all the records present in the user table. So that become like no life like very simple. And I want like but single user based on the ID. So I know the ID of the user. So I want to get based on the ID. So I will pass as argument as ID. So for that also the functions are available. Guys, like you should remember. So these are all the functions available inbuilt. We did not implement anything. Just by extending the JPA repository, that's the beauty of the JPA that provides all the inbuilt functions. Okay. So just I'm using it. So user repository is that find by ID. That's it. So it is giving for me. And if you want to add any user repository dot save of user object. So this is the entity, right? So each record like, so that will be treating as user entity. Delete means I will be having the ID based on the ID you delete it. So in that case, first you have to check if it is exist, then it will delete it. Okay. We will come like each functional wise later, just understand. So this is the service layer. So now we are done with service layer. So we left with application layer. So this is the layer as a front face for the end users. Means the web service, the web service selling, we are telling, right? REST API. This is the where the controller are there. So this is the controller. So whatever the entity is there, for that entity, I'm creating one controller. So what is controller? So that it should be annotated as REST controller. Means it will work for the REST endpoints. So that is a fixed annotation. So if you want to write any REST web services with the Spring Boot, so you should have one REST controller. You define all the endpoints within that class. Okay, that class should be annotated with @REST controller. Then only Spring Boot identifies. Otherwise, it cannot identify. Okay. Then what I'm doing, request mapping. So I'm just mapping. So means that this is the path I'm giving. So if my request is having /user, so that I have shown, right? So this is the one. So the post is there. So register. So till here it represents. So whenever I will call this one, till user, so it identifies, okay, what is the controller for that? So the call comes and lands here. Whenever you hit in the browser till the user, the request comes here. Okay. So it is having dependency on the service because the flow mentioned, right? It talks via service to data layer to database. So this channel we have seen, and this channel also we have seen how the dependency mark. Now the application layer is having a dependency on the service layer because service is the one business layer. Okay. All the business logic is defined inside it. So let's see. Even this is also same. I will use a dependent injection concept. Just use @auto-void. So Spring Boot will provide you that particular object for you. Okay. So here I will define all my methods for a get method, post method, put method, or delete method. So any kind of action, I will define all the mappings here. So what I'm giving, first I'm giving for get users. So if you want to see all the users present in my application, so for that case, I'm giving one endpoint. So that is get mapping. So this is the mapping for the request, how the mapping should be there. So I'm giving /users as a request get mapping. And what it will do, get users, it will give, because user service dot get users, because already service is having the implementation for all these things. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, just I'm calling from the service. You get all the users present in my application. That's it. So everything is working on the service. So another is I want to register new user into my application. So for that, I'm giving one endpoint. So this is the post endpoint. So /register is there. That is indication for me is registering the new user into my application. So what it will be having, request body, because it has to pass complete user object, right? So it will do user service dot add user of, just pass the user object, the entity. Similarly, update. If you want to update anything, so I will give my ID. So you update this particular user with this ID. So what and all the body means, the user object we will send. I will show you all these templates. Just see like how the mappings can be defined. That's it. No need to bother for all the complete details. So delete. So I want to delete one particular user whose ID is this one. So whatever is coming as part of the input, that we will take as path variable. Okay. So delete user. So with this, I have done with application layer, service layer, data layer, and database also present. So I have done with all these things. Okay. So already I'm having some data of, I'm erasing the data now. Okay. I will start freshly for you guys to run demo application. This is standalone, beauty of the Spring Boot. So what it will do, let me show you the screen. See here, everything happening. See, started demo application in this many seconds. If you see here, Tomcat started on port 8080. So as already mentioned, Spring Boot comes with the inbuilt web server. So that is Tomcat. So we no need to build the Tomcat. We no need to take care of all these things explicitly. So this is a inbuilt. So by providing all these things, it will make our application build up very easy. Okay. So Tomcat is started means it is up and running. Let me go on check here. So first I'm checking in my database.
Another round.
See. Sorry.
No, nothing, bro. Like
See, previously it was not present anything. So it created user at the time of startup. Okay. Why? Because of my configuration, what and all I have defined in application properties, this create what it will do, what and all the entities are present in the model. So if you want to show you that clearly, so I'm educating. So I'm telling to Spring Boot application, boss, my entity scan is here. Means under the model package, all my entities are present. So this is a path for my entities. So what it will do during the startup, it will go on check for these entities. How many entities are there under the model? That many tables will get create. Okay. Currently, I'm having only one. So that's why only user table is present. All tables. Okay. But let me see any records are in user. Select star from user. See, it is empty set. There are no records at all. Not even a single row present in the user table. Okay. So how do? Because I'm having my application running, right? So I will do everything from my application. So this is the endpoint. So I'm taking this as the endpoint for my post request. If you see here, this is the one till my application means where my web server is running. Localhost means current system. Tomcat is port is 8080. So that I have shown you guys, right? See, Tomcat started on port 8080. So that's how till here the localhost and port, and after that, what is the entity I'm working on it? So this, if you see here, where is the user controller? User controller. So it is talking this one. So the request mapping means whenever the request, HTTP request is having the user, so it represents my entity. Okay, therefore that register. So this is a method level. Method mapping, this is the class mapping. Entity, this one, this is a method mapping. So whenever I use this, it will identify for the user. Is there any controller for the user or not? So it is present. So it come here. Inside that, again, I'm giving the register. So what this register mapping represents? Let me search for it. See, register is there. This is there for the post mapping. Post is used for creating an entity. Okay, so that's how the request comes and lands exactly at this register user function whenever I will provide this endpoint. So that is how this mapping works. Okay, so I want to create one user. So user entity, let's see. This is the entity. I've taken 4 fields. Okay, name, phone number, mail ID, age. So name is a JSON representation. I have taken as Guru. Phone number, I can give me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So mail ID, I'm taking apc@gmail.com, and the age, I'm just giving is 30. Okay, these are the fields. Mean I want to insert a user record into my user table. So with these things, I want to put it. That's what happens. Send. See, this is 200 means it's a success. See, this is data dispatcher servlet. Okay, complete logging is not there. That's why you cannot see exactly what the table are. Now we'll go to database. Select start from user. See, there is one record present. What is the guru, phone number, ID, age? And if you see here, the primary key ID. Okay. See, did they provide anything ID here? No, I did not provide. It created automatically that it keeps as primary key. Because how I have defined in my entity class the ID used as primary I asked to generate automatically. So I will not provide every time. So if you define like this, Hibernate will generate all the sequence automatically. So whenever the new record, new insert record is coming, that time it will give with another ID. Let me add another one. Balu. Let me send this. Again, it's done. See here, there is another record came. So the sequence is getting increased. So automatically, Hibernate will take care of that. So is that clear? The post request I sent, and I can see there is a entry is getting inserted into my database. Okay, so now I'm seeing the entries from the database. So I don't want to see. I want to see from endpoint. So I have get method. Get method is the one generally to get some data from the database. So I have defined users. So let me check. Is there any endpoint for me to get users? Get control user controller. See users. This endpoint. Whenever request comes with /users, this function will get called. What this function will do? It will return the list of users present in the table. Let me run this. See here, I got like two entries. See, first one is Guru with ID 1, second one is Balu with ID 2. So this is the one for getters. Okay. And if you want to get only based on like single ID, so what I do, because I know 1 and 2 other IDs, I will go for 1. Let's see what happens. I think, let me check. Slash is not there. Okay. I will check for that implementation. So this is the one for getting all the required things. Okay. So oh, it is not all there. That's why. If you see here, for the get mapping, I have only one. That is getting the complete list of users. Okay. But I don't have get by single ID. That's why it was failing. Let me write this one. Public user get user by ID. Return user service dot get user by ID. So here at the rate path variable long ID. Is that fine? Okay. So I have written the function. I'm defining the endpoint. Okay. At the rate get mapping So here I will just pass the ID alone. So with that ID, everything should work. That's it. Okay. So meanwhile, I will work for the delete first, then I will deploy. Because if I again deploy, it will delete my all the records. It will create freshly the table because I have chosen this one. So let's delete. So what are the endpoint for the delete? User controller. So I have one endpoint for the delete. See, delete mapping. If you provide the ID, based on that ID, I will delete that particular user. So see here, user service delete user. So path variable will be having the ID. So now we are having two entries here, 1 and 2. Let me delete for the second one. See 200, okay, status. Let me see here. Now one is there. The second ID entry, it's got deleted via the delete API. So this is the one for high level. Let me look for another deployment. Let me deploy again. Or we can go for update now so that everything will be complete. So I have one endpoint for the update. The update and all will be handled via the put method. Okay. What I am telling, I will give you an ID. So this ID user should get updated with the details what I'm providing. Okay. So what I'm providing the complete user object. Okay. Here like request body. So yeah, that register user, right? For post method, if you see here, so this is the request body. So the complete user object I'm passing in the JSON. Similarly, for the update, what I do is, so I'm telling the ID one. So update the user whose ID is the one with these kind of fields. So here I'm changing like no. Now currently if you see only Guru is there, right? The name. So I'm planning to change the name to Balu from Guru. Okay. Only one field I'm trying to change. Let's see what happens. It's done. Let's go on see. If you see here, the name got changed. This is there for the update. Okay. Go and see the implementation. What and all I'm doing as part of the update. So user service dot update user is there. Let's see what is implementation of it. So these and all things like this intelligence you can build because a lot of validations also can be added inside the service. Means all the required input fields are there or not. And this field means phone number is there means it should have only 10 digits. It should not have more than 10 digits. So all such kind of validations can be included actually. So this is for the plain level. So I did not do anything. So what I'm doing first, so they have provided the ID. First I'm checking with that ID, is there any user present or not? Okay. So if it is user exist, it will return user exist. Okay. Means existing user object, it will return. So then what I am doing, I'm just comparing. It's because I'm also passing one user object here and there is also one user object exists in the database. So I have the two objects. So I will go through each field of these two objects. I will compare what I'm doing. So existing user means from the database, I'm getting the name of it and I'm comparing with whatever the object I'm passing as part of the payload. Means request body. So if there is any change, then I'm changing user exist property. So if you see here, everything is working in getter and setter. Means get name, set name. If there is a delta, get age. If there is a delta, then only set. If there is no delta, don't set. Like that only. Get phone number from both. You compare with the both. If both are not equals, then you consider this user one because that is the one user wants to update, right? So that I consider. So set phone number of from this value. So like this I'm doing. So I set, I populated user like that. Then at the end, I'm saving that object. That's it. So with the delta, everything got populated. Now I'm saving that particular entity. So that's why we can see after saving, the same user record got updated with the name from Guru to Balu. Okay, let me delete this also. So now the one, so let's delete this guy also. If I see now, I don't have anything. I'm empty. So let me redeploy my application because I have done some code changes, right? For the get by ID, single ID and all. So just I'm restarting, redeploying my application. So it will do all these things, what and all required for us. See, Tomcat is started and started the demo application. So application also started. So this is indication that my application is up and running. So now I will go and see, are there any entries? No entries. So now I will go for post. Where is my register user? Just register. There is one entry. Yes, 130 gmail.com. So now get users. I'm trying to get all the users. So currently there is only one user is that I can see one. So let me register another user. Guru 32 ABCDGF. Let it be the same. It's 200. So it is also success. So now I can see 2 entries. Okay, now this time I try to change like multiple values. Now go for get users. I'm trying to get all my users. So I can see 2 entries. One ID. Now I want to get with first ID. So I want to get a single user whose ID is 1. ID is 1 who is present Balu. So if I say, if I come down, only one record came, one entry. So that is Balu. So let me get for second guy, who is that is Guru. So it gave me as Guru. So like this, we can play however you want. Let us try to get everything, all the present users. Now I can see 2 records. That's it. So this is all about one complete application, like pure application for create, delete, update, and how the endpoints are getting designed and how the flow goes from application layer, service layer, repository layer. So the flow wise, if I see initially during the creation of the application time, I have shown you from bottom right. Now let's see from top. So this is the end user sending the request. So where it is going, it will go and land at controller, which is application layer. Okay. So what this controller is doing, application layer, it is using the service layer to fulfill that particular perform the particular action. So which means, so here request came for this application layer. It is using the service layer to perform. So let's see what this service layer is doing. He is using the data layer to perform the actual action. So what he is doing? He is using the repository and he is manipulating the data. That's it. So that is how the flow goes. Okay. Application layer, service layer, repository layer. From here, again, once operation is completed, this data layer acknowledges the service layer. The service layer acknowledges the application layer. Application layer returns back to the end user. That is how we can see right here. In case of the, where is the controller? So register user and all. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that is all in case of the guitar and all. The values are like no returning actually. So what and all it should get returned. So all these things. So that's the flow goes like this. It will, okay. So that is about this one, like in case of the returning. So what and all it will return. If not, like just the plain. So if you see here I'm sending the JSON. I'm getting output as a JSON, but internally I don't have any JSON. I'm having only the Java. So that is where the REST serialization deserializer. Okay. So you send the JSON data, what Spring Boot will do, automatically convert the JSON into Java object, and it will perform the things. While returning back, it will convert Java object to the JSON, and it will send back to the client. So that is serialization and deserialization in REST API. So that is done by using some third-party softwares. This is Jackson. Jackson is the JARS third-party libraries which will do that particular job. Okay. So internally, like even Spring Boot uses the Jackson for doing this auto conversion, means for serialization and deserialization. So that's it for all this complete application. So any doubts or is that clear? Chandrasekhar, can you stop recording?